We're gonna head into the spoiler section,
Yep.
and with this, we're gonna try and not recount everything, and we're gonna try and just hit the big points. I do want to start with the beginning, obviously, and saying the beginning pace was off. I did not enjoy the beginning. The first like 150 pages was the roughest for me. I know it's a build up, obviously, but I felt like they jumped into it with the perspectives right away, and I was so out of it. But of course, it does build, but it was just a weird and jarring way of starting, in my opinion. Um, what do you think about the beginning?
Yeah.
Any
This is
big?
okay. This is a problem with me with basically all books I read, but especially fantasy. I really don't enjoy the beginning, like you said, where they're kind of building the world and introducing you all the things. I like books. They do this a lot in sci-fi, where there's just like a 3-page blurb at the beginning explaining the universe. I'm like, okay, I got it. I can get into the story now. I don't like when they slowly introduce elements of the world to you. And maybe some people do. That's kind of like a personal preference. But I prefer to just know what's going on in the overall world and let's see how our characters interact with this. Where this book felt like we're going to introduce you to the world through dialogue between the characters, and it took a long time. Like you said, almost the first 200 pages are all set up for how the book's going to go.
Which I understand. It's a book. You have to build it somehow, but it can be done better, obviously, because just to relate to something else, everyone's gonna know this. The Farseer trilogy, the one I've told you about, that's like multiple trilogies. That's the same way. Robin Hobb, the author, is a very slow writer, and she does the same thing. But the thing is, I enjoy her character work, and she gives so much depth to what's happening around her. The problem with this gave no depth to what was happening, and it was just like you said through dialogue, which was like weird. I don't know.
It feels like expository dialogue in a movie where people explain the world to you. It's like the characters aren't even talking to each other. They're like talking to you. They're
Yeah,
like 1,000 years ago, the unknowing, what do they call him? The nameless one
yeah.
came, and it's like, why would you
What a name.
why would you say
No
that?
name.
That would be like it'd be like if a foreigner came to this country and me and you were talking and he was sitting right there, and
Long ago.
I was like, Joe Biden, the 47th president of the United States. It's like, why are you saying it like that?
Yeah, and once again, it wasn't bad. I'm not saying it was terrible. That was just a weak point for me.
Mm.
Um, and then after that is the only time it really peaked. Well, it was still slow going, and then it peaked a lot towards the middle. I say the middle as in like 300 to like 450, 500 was really good for me. It was like fast.
I agree.
I enjoyed it a lot, and I was burning through it. I don't know if you want to talk about exactly what happens to anyone.
Well, do you want to talk about the characters first, or do you want to talk about the overall part that happened? Because I have a lot to say about
Yeah, the
four
characters.
different
Yeah,
characters.
let's talk about the overarching story, and then we'll pick apart
Okay.
each character.
We'll try and keep it. We're not going to go through every plot. We'll keep it brief. Let's start from uh, the assassination attempt.
Yeah, that was all right. You mean like when Eid protects?
Oh no, I didn't mean. I mean
Oh,
when Livlin dies.
oh, that is a big yeah. Wait, let me think
That's
for a
page.
bit.
Okay, for me that was page 300. That's when it really got good.
I think that was the only peak. Yeah, that's where everything kind of started with that death. But I also assumed it already. It was predictable in my opinion.
Yeah, I was. This book feels so. I don't want to say predictable at times. It just feels very generic. Where like it's like, okay, this Queen Sabrin, she never wanted a lover. She
Yeah.
finds this guy and she's like, oh, actually, I really do like this guy, or I am in love with him. I want him to be the prince, or does he become king? I don't know how kingdom politics work, but I want him to be beside me, and we're gonna give birth to the next line to keep away the nameless one for another generation. And then it's like, he comes to Eid and he's like, I want us to go on a parade and show our love to the people. And I was
Yeah.
like, and then they start doing it. And I'm like, in my head,
Obviously gonna
in my
happen.
head, I'm like, there's no way that they actually make this a dangerous part of the thing. This is going to be a red herring. Nothing's actually going to happen because it would be so predictable for something to happen right here. And then, of course, they have the Game of Thrones scene with the people in masks that try to assassinate the queen, and the prince, Livlin, ends up dying in that scuffle, and it leaves the queen heartbroken, of course.
I will say, but that was predictable.
Mm-hmm.
The shocker, I'm just saying, let's not say shocker, was Trudy, whatever.
Yeah.
That was, I was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that. I didn't expect her direct involvement with everything happening. I don't, that is a big point. Well, did that happen at the same time as Sousa death? Or was that a little bit after?
That was a little bit later, because
that's another big one.
Because Trudy is already dead when Sousa dies, or she's in the dungeon dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the next big one. That was the first death. Then Tane has her side of it.
Yeah,
kind of the same.
I really did not like Tane's story,
Really?
even though she was my favorite character.
I thought it was boring.
It wasn't boring, but it's just I didn't like where they took her as a character. There was no point in having her go to Feather Island. It felt so contrived to have this random crime. I thought the dragon would speak up for her, like
What never came back.
Naimathun.
That was the whole point, though.
No, but she rode her to the place. I wish
Well, no, she rode her to
the beach.
yeah, and then she was taken. So she was never had a chance to tell her.
Oh,
Yeah.
I guess that's fair. But still, I feel like they build up the respect for these dragon riders so much. I feel like the sea general, whatever, would have been like, sweep that under the rug. You're one of our best cadets ever.
Yeah.
We'll just
I
let
think
that go.
they're a big, morals culture. So it made sense.
I'm not saying it was awful, but I just wish her story would have taken a different path.
How do you imagine Ruse as a person?
Um,
They said he was tall and big, which I did not expect.
I
expected
forgot all about
man.
that. I was not imagining him as big the entire...
Yeah, they said they looked up at a large man when Tane found him
I
again.
remember that at the beginning now.
Yeah.
But
and I was like, I just imagine a shriveled old man.
I imagine him as kind of like Taika Waititi, the director of Thor. Okay, I'll go with someone else. Kind of like a sexy Nicolas Cage.
Okay.
But Nicolas Cage's body with a completely different face. Kind of like a little bit taller than average, lanky, gray hair.
You expect him to be attractive?
Yeah. I thought he was. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess since
Because he made that dude
Jean
fall
Art,
in love with him.
because his hair, his flowing hair.
Yeah.
Which was actually the first. That was the first LGBTQ moment, technically.
Well, they mention it, but they don't get to them
Well, yeah,
interacting
'cause-
until later.
Dead.
Well, yeah, but they actually, they have that that one chapter that's in the past.
Yeah, where they talk about it. But still, he was like the first one where they kind of touched on like his lover. I was like, oh, interesting. I also didn't give a shit, so
Okay. Yeah.
fuck Ruse.
All
my homies hate Ruse.
Do you want me to go off about Ruse right now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I think Ruse should have died. First of all, he should have died when they cut his arm off. I was like, what? He's alive? Why is he there? He has no purpose being in this story. But yeah, I think Ruse could be cut entirely as a character, and it wouldn't change the story whatsoever. If you simply replace Ruse's chapters with Loth, it works for me. In my head, it would work so much better, because if you want to have a gay man in the story, why isn't Loth gay? You could have a gay relationship between him and Kit, and then Kit's death would be so much more meaningful, because if you have lost his lover, and it talks about Loth the whole time, how he never wants to wed or take on a princess or whatever to be with him. Why isn't Loth gay? Why is Roose shoehorned in here?
Damn, I didn't think about that at all. That would have been perfect. I don't think about the Kit thing. That didn't have to happen, but I do agree it would have made a lot of sense. Since they brought it up so much, they should have spun him to end up in something. Because, yeah, I mean, Ruse added nothing but minor inconveniences to the story. He actually didn't even make anything that bad. He was just annoying. He's
unlikable.
He didn't do anything, and his whole transformation at the end was fucking bullshit. I don't care.
He's unlikable the whole story up until his last chapter. He's a piece of shit. He even goes, even though he decides not to, I forget her name at the moment, but he's gonna betray
Who?
the girl, the girl that's the pirate translator.
Lay.
Yeah. He was gonna betray her to the Nameless One until he saw Tane on the ship. He was like, I'm gonna kill everyone. I was like, why are we supposed to like this man?
I also love how we're kind of going all over, but let's flesh out each character. But when he was like, yeah, she'll never know it's coming. When my man's like 60 years old with a knife, and he's like, I'm gonna just. And I thought he was gonna do it.
Sabrin's wearing chest plate armor.
Yeah,
It's like, what you?
And I saw, I thought he was gonna do it, and then she would just literally kill him. But instead, he's like, I decided not to, because that John Art's dead, and she tried to replicate, and I was like, man, I don't care. Honestly, I really don't care.
I'm praying on your downfall right now.
He should have died.
100%. That was another thing I really disliked about this book is something I always say in these reviews: kill your characters. Don't be afraid to kill your characters. Why is Ruse alive? Why is the Empress alive? The
Golden
pirate,
Empress, yeah.
the pirate bitch. Why is she living? She was on an isolated island with no one on it but her and her crew and like 500 wyverns. Why is she living? I really don't like stuff like that. And I understand she would have had to die off screen, which a lot of people dislike. But I think or off page because it's a book.
Yeah.
But I think that's okay when it's a character like that. She's not one of the main characters. Let her be dead. Find her charred remains later on.
But yeah. So that was Ruse. Who else did you have an issue with? You don't like Sabrin.
Yeah. Well,
she's neutral. She is what she is.
I
don't
liked
understand
her.
that.
I liked her more when she was isolated with Tane when they had their emotional scenes. But she's generally rude to everyone else. I'm sorry, Eid. Yeah, when she's isolated with Eid and they have their romantic scenes, or even when they're just hanging out, she seems very likable. But she's very rude to everyone else in the book. And
she is a queen.
Yeah, I understand how it's supposed to represent. She's kind of, she's expected this.
She's the default queen image.
But it talks about how she's rude to her bedchamber lady when she's dying. She has like a fatal sickness, and it's like that's someone that like spends the most amount of time with you, even if you are royalty. I feel like she would have more sympathy for someone she's that close to.
I think it makes sense. I was very, I'm gonna say it again. I was very neutral to her, which isn't a great thing to say about all this.
I'm a Sabrin hater, but I mostly just liked her at the beginning. As the book went on, she was fine.
She literally is just a default snob queen.
Yeah.
And then she changes slowly with Eid and softens up. I actually loved the romance side of that, where it was once again, easy to see. But Sabrin's so used to power. Eid was the only one that's like, hey, no. Like, this is how it is. Speak truthfully. That was nice little, It
was nice for her to kind of check her and be like,
and
you need to be realistic. Like,
yeah, so she was okay. I actually really liked Loth as a character. I don't see anything wrong.
No, I like Loth. Like I said, I just wish he would have been given the romance plot instead of Ruse. But yeah, as a character, I like Loth a lot. He like we said in the spoiler-free section, he had the most growth and change as a character pretty much in the whole book.
And I love how it wasn't like a full change of belief. It wasn't like, okay, this is how it is. Makes sense. He was like fighting it the whole time. Yeah, I liked how...
that was probably the most realistic depiction of someone changing their mind, where they fight it until they realize that they're the ones that are wrong. And he's like, oh, wait. Well, I realize the religion I worship is based on a guy's embarrassment in the past that Cleoline didn't want to become his queen, and the 8. What are they? The 8 or the 7?
What?
The saints.
The virtues.
Yeah. Was it 6, 7,
6.
or 8?
It was 6.
6 virtues. He's like, maybe what it was based upon was a lie, but I can still find my own truth in it. And he starts to manipulate his own way of viewing it to incorporate the people of the East. And he's like, oh, well, now that I've met these people, I know they aren't insane dragon worshippers. Their basis of religion is valid, because he realizes that their dragons aren't these evil entities. They're actually kind creatures.
Yeah. And Eid is another one. Once again, she didn't change a whole lot. I just liked her character. She was a basic assassin rogue type.
Mm-hmm.
brute kind of woman, and I liked it. I mean, she didn't really need a change in my
He
opinion.
does Ukanara.
I think she was fine. Um, who else I even cared about?
Chazar. I don't know how you say his name.
Oh,
He was
yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
he
he's
felt like a
alright.
cool uncle.
Yeah.
He was like
He's kind of
I don't know how he didn't. I don't know how they didn't realize he's only on each side.
yeah.
But he
I
was a
just
cool
saw him
dude.
as a big man, big uncle man.
I like that bear, the Ichneumon or
Yeah, that
whatever.
was awesome.
He was cool.
And I was telling Tyler I had trouble imagining that at first, but he said kind of like a bear.
I don't think they're actually supposed to be like a bear, but in my head, when they describe him like nuzzling and just hanging out around her bed and cuddling and stuff,
Yeah.
I was like, I'm imagining him as a big fluffy bear.
I still don't know what they are.
I think he's supposed to be more wolf-like, but to me, he's a bear.
But yeah, I also actually really like the side characters, like more like the bedchamber ladies, Meg, Lost Sister,
Catherine,
all
yeah.
those. I actually thought they had a decent amount of depth
Yeah.
with them.
I wish they would have gone more into. I always forget his name. What's his name? The guy who has like spies everywhere.
The
and thing.
Nighthawk.
Yeah, Nighthawk.
Comb.
I thought Comb. I thought he was really interesting. I wish they would have given him more page time.
Actually, yeah. See, in the beginning, I just thought he was a usual. Once again, everything in this book is generic. Let's be honest.
Mhm.
You've seen it all before if you watched any TV.
Yeah, any
of this
fantasy
sort.
exposure, you're probably gonna see some of these characters.
But he had the most. He was the most fleshed out in the jail scene where he's like, "I'm gonna be loyal to whoever is holding the crown." You know, he's like, and it was true like protection. I really like that.
Yeah, he's like he took his duty seriously. He's like,
Yeah.
my job is to protect the realm and keep the line of Berthnet going. And he's like, that's what I'm gonna do, no matter
Yeah.
what, even if it compromises her friends or her lovers. That's not important to me. What's important is that she has an heir, and later on, when she can't have an heir, that she remains on the throne to keep peace throughout the land.
Yeah, he's just a big nerd, big defense nerd.
Yeah.
I thought the crest thing was weird.
Yeah, I think she should have been way more prominent if they're
It's
gonna
so-
make her.
It was so
I was
random.
like, who is that again? I had
Yeah.
to look in the glossary to see who
I
she was.
still didn't know. I had to just read it because I didn't have the glossary, and it just came out of nowhere. Oh yeah, this is happening. She's been building on this for years, and they
Yeah.
gave all the backstory. And
Yeah.
I was like, all right,
They really
whatever.
needed to flesh out her more, and Trudy and Solyard. They really needed to give them more page time.
I know he died,
Mhm.
Sawyer, but I like how they never talked about it again.
Yeah.
She just saw him. Tane saw him, and Susa, and I was like, all right,
yeah,
fair.
he's dead. But if they're gonna be such important elements in the story, I understand their only purpose was to get the story going. To bring. They were trying to warn them about the nameless one and get the 2 jewels before anyone else even knew about it.
Yeah.
But I feel like you should have given them a little bit more depth, and then Crest, of course, as well, because if you don't know who they're talking about when the big twist happens, that's a problem.
Yeah.
I understand that's a retention problem, maybe on my part. Maybe I should have remembered her. But there's a lot of characters in this book. I feel like you should give more credence to the important ones.
I will say another negative is the amount of characters. There is way too many characters, way too many names, and I don't think you have to memorize them, but they gave way too many. Am I supposed to care about every empress and everything? You
Okay,
know?
so you've read more fantasy than me. So you've been reading like Mistborn and stuff. Do those have a lot of characters like this one does?
No.
No?
See, so most
'Cause I
epic
know-
fantasies
well-
will,
Yeah.
but guess what? They have 10 books.
Yeah. I was
You
gonna
gave
say,
us 200 characters. I know it's still a big book, but it went in one ear out the other because what am I supposed to do with all that? And they're like complicated names. It's not Bert and
yeah, they're
Bob.
a lot of them are very non-English
Yeah,
names.
and,
where
like more Asian
they-
inspired, definitely.
Which is fine that they're foreign to our tongue, but you got to mention them more or give them more depth if you want
You need to care.
dumbass English speakers like us to remember these names.
Yeah, but that was
But,
just another.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. Like Game of Thrones famously has like hundreds. Wheel of Time has like 3,000 characters, but each of those books is this length or longer, and those characters come back. This one, you might see a character once, and then you won't see them again for 200 pages, and it just says their name and nothing about them, and you're like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna just read like I know who this is, but I don't really know.
And the thing is, though, introduce. It was especially when they were talking about strategy for the war or whatever, and they brought in this lady,
Mhm.
and the one that is like an alliance with the Priory,
Yeah.
and they brought her in, and they had a deep talk with Ede. Am I supposed to really care?
Yeah.
You know, I
That was
mean,
a that was another one of my major complaints is why did you spend so long talking about the ladies of the bedchamber if there are these major factions that are going to come in
yeah,
later and we know nothing about them? They didn't even bring back the princess of Gaskelin or whatever that gave Loth the box with the jewel in it.
that's true.
They
We
never
never, we don't even
what
know if she's alive.
yeah, why'd they kick her out and bring in this other random lady? I understand she's supposed to be stuck because she's working with the enemy. But they contrived a bunch of stuff. She could have got in there. And then the Hroth kingdom in the north, which I'll show you in the book, is like this little speck of land, but it leads to something bigger. It's just not they don't have it mapped out. But you never talk about them, introduce them at all. Even when they're having talks with the East, they're never mentioned. And then they're there for the final battle. And it's like they've got tons of warships. They're the second
Yeah,
biggest navy. It's like maybe you should have told us that at some point.
but yeah, I think the only other peak I was gonna say back to Crest was how do you say it? How do you say it?
Trudy?
Trudy? I don't think it's.
It ends with an E. I don't know.
Anyway, her head on the gate was a shock for me too,
Yeah.
because she was just in the dungeon. You weren't gonna assume she'd die, because you just assumed that Sabrin wouldn't have. But I was like, oh wow, it's kind of wild. But I
Yeah.
don't think there's any other peaks that I know of.
Now, I really did like, even though he's only in the book for a short time, I like the Eternal Emperor from
Yeah,
the
he was
East. I thought
cool.
he was interesting.
Real chill. He's like a
Yeah.
hipster dude.
Yeah, he was like
That's
just
how I
a,
imagine
just
him.
like young, but not super young. He said he was in his
25,
like
I think.
yeah.
A lot of people were 25, and
Yeah, he said he was just like he's like, yeah, I know I'm probably uppity because I'm the emperor, but I kind of try and downplay that. And he was a chill dude.
yeah,
Uh,
I did
I
like
only
him.
talked about his dragon a few times, which was unfortunate. I
That was
thought
that was another
what's it
thing.
called? The Imperial dragon?
Yeah, so
It's supposed to be the largest, oldest dragon in the land. You see two
so
scenes.
we move. So we're gonna move past. We talked about all the characters. We talked about the big parts. We can move into the ending now.
Hmm.
And that was one issue. Not to cut ahead, but the Imperial Dragon. They literally note for one sentence. Oh, and they looked at her as she approached the nameless one, almost the same size. I was like, what? I was like, why is she almost the same size? What is there a dragon that's almost as big as the nameless one? I did
Yeah,
not
well,
imagine that at all.
I imagine. So it says that the nameless one was born out of an imbalance between Saren and what is the other one?
Saren and Sidon.
Sidon. Yeah,
The
Saren
fire
and
and the
fire and stars.
illusions, whatever you want to call
Yeah,
it.
the two balances don't really work. We're just gonna say
What?
fire and water because they're water dragons,
Yeah,
even
whatever.
though they use wind, but they live in the ocean. Ah.
Big
but,
imbalance
But
guy.
yeah, but maybe she came from an imbalance of Saren, like the nameless one came from an imbalance of Sidon. That's why he was born. But she's not evil, so no one rebelled against her. That's why she's almost as big as him. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But why? This dragon is so cool. Why did you not mention it? Why not have Naimathun be that person instead?
Also, why is she the leader of the dragons? And this book's about dragons, and we don't even hear about her.
Yeah.
Besides when oh yeah, the Imperial Dragon actually commands all the dragons. Silent.
We only get the name for two dragons.
Yeah, they throw it in during the battle.
Gruthra or something. It starts with a G. It's her friend's dragon.
Yeah, Onrin.
Yeah. And
During
then,
the fight, I was like, I don't care about this now.
I really wish there would have been more stuff. Instead of banishing Tane to Feather Island, flesh out the dragon. Show us some more of the dragon culture, how they live amongst each other, how these ancient beings talk to each other, or maybe just show us their command structure. How does is Naima, because it talks about how the southern East dragons, like I forget the name of her country, but where Ede's from, are smaller, and how the land of the 12 lakes where Naimathun and the Imperial Dragon are from are huge ancient dragons. It's like, why not go deeper into that? Tell us some dragon lore.
Yeah, and
It-
also,
Naimathun, well, real quick, Naimathun is so wise when she speaks and she explains. Like Ede is worried about how she killed, and Naimathun's like, you can't always be nice. You have to be evil sometimes.
The-
I'm not judging you on how pure you are. I'm judging you on how committed you are to our
Yeah, so
race.
she said the ocean isn't always pure,
Yeah.
and
The
that
ocean isn't always calm. That's
yeah,
what it
and
was.
she has
Yeah.
the heart of a dragon. I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that was cool.
That was a hard line.
Also, why are there no dragon interactions at all? How come the dragons don't even talk to each
Yeah,
other?
I know. They don't say it. Maybe, okay. They've been around for thousands of years. They're like, I don't want to
I
talk to
said
you
it.
anymore.
Said it all.
Shut up, Bill. I don't care.
And also, yeah, they did say that too, which they literally mentioned like twice during the small parts of her training as a dragon rider. How the sergeants or whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
Oh, and she's like, oh, she looked upon them with their dragons bigger. Why? Why are they? So there's like older dragons that were bigger, and then there's like a lesser dragon.
Yeah, from what I understood, which is not much, it's the Sea Empress. Is that what she's called?
Who?
It's Imperial Dragon.
Yeah.
This like council that lives with the Sea General. These huge dragons that like see if you're worthy or
I
not.
think there's like 3 of them or something.
Yeah, and then
The dragon
the 12
rider.
Lakes dragons, which is Nine Mithun, each Tane's dragon, and then the southeastern dragons, which are like smaller. But I really would have liked to go more into that. And Nine Mithun was such a cool character. Have her speak more. I imagine
Yeah.
her as like this, like she said, it's like such a deep voice that it's even hard to understand. Where it's like, this is a weird cross, and I imagine her as a cross between Parthenax and Lady Galadriel. God, I can't speak.
What are you talking about?
The lady from the Lord of the Rings,
Oh.
the main elf.
Oh, the nice, pretty one, whatever.
Yeah, Galadriel. God, I can't
It's
say
just
it. Galadriel. Is that it?
There you
Or
go.
is it Galadriel? Whatever people know what I'm talking about. I can't speak. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm gonna put like a text to speech with it just saying it correctly. But I imagine a cross between those two, where it's like this, because she is a female. It's like this comforting female voice, but just at a very low baritone, like
I just imagine
rumble.
an old, wise lady voice, honestly.
I just imagine dragons are so powerful. How kind of in Skyrim, their voice itself is an attack. Where not the same in this book, but it's just powerful when they speak to you.
Yeah. But yeah. Let's just cut to the chase of the big fight.
Yeah, we need
Which
to talk about
was
the ending. because-
Trash. Come on now. It wasn't trash. None of this was bad. But I was like, man, that was
Yeah, this
that was
where-
quick. That
this
was
is
like 20
where-
pages,
This is
man.
where the pacing issues really.
It was a huge trip. It was a huge trip to this battle.
Which
to,
happened way too fast.
and then the
They
nameless
prepared-
one.
Sorry to cut you off. They prepared for the battle in like 6 hours.
Yeah.
You need to. They have 5 different countries uniting. You could have made that happen a little earlier, make it more realistic.
But yeah, so the nameless one bursts out of the sea. They have a little interaction for about 20 pages.
He's talking to them telepathically through the gems.
Yeah, and then Tane tries to fight him. Whatever.
Fails.
No point in recounting. Let's just say
Mhm.
it was way too fast.
Well,
I mean,
yeah. Why? I don't understand. What was the point of having Caliba take the sword if they're just gonna kill her so easily?
oh, hold on. I forgot to bring her up. I liked her a lot.
I did like her a lot
was
until
cool.
the end. I thought she died way too easily. She's been alive for like 2,000 years.
Everyone died too. The nameless one, this huge creature that's 4 times the size of every other dragon.
Yeah.
Man was just one tapped. I know it was kind of the
I
point.
did find it.
But
Wow, we're skipping all over the place now. Yeah, it was really annoying how easily. I wouldn't say it was easy. It was a struggle for the characters, but I don't like how quickly it happened.
yeah.
I think the easiest solution for me, I don't like nitpicking and telling people how to write their books, but easiest solution for me, as I'm going to do what I said don't like doing, is remove Freydel and put the nameless one in his place. There's no second wing. It's the nameless one that comes back and tries to kill Sabrin, and Eid fights him off. And then
Maybe.
'Cause-
You make him a more active role.
yeah, because he's only there for 20 pages and he's been built up as this huge thing the whole time, and he gets smacked because one of his scales gets taken off. He gets killed by a sword. He's supposed to be this giant beast and he gets killed by
Well,
a
he didn't
sword.
get killed, right? He still got Did he get sealed?
No, they said he can't come back because he's the sword in him.
Yeah.
So it'll kill him over time.
Yeah, he's sealed
'cause he's
away.
sealed in the sea. Yeah.
But yeah, because it wasn't enough to just, stab him.
Shank him. Yeah.
They had to, and it was too easy. Also, jumping around again. Not really. They just had to kill Meg's husband for fun. Right at the end, the night.
No, he's alive.
Did it?
Meg was tending to him in the.
But then Law said he's dead.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I must have missed that.
I had to read it twice. I want to look because I didn't understand what they were trying to say.
I thought he was just being cared for. I thought he lived through their battle.
She was kneeling beside Sir Lintley, whatever, who lay still and bruised on a pallet. A deep wound stretched from his jaw to his temple. He had been stitched with care, but he would be scarred for life. And then Margaret looked up at him, and he crouched beside her. And I think he'll be all right. She smelled a smoke. A soldier did this, not a worm. He is dead. It's over.
No, he's saying the nameless one is
Oh,
dead.
now that I read it, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I was like, no, he didn't. Llewellyn didn't, or not.
They
Llewellyn,
said it
whatever
weird.
his name.
I was like, what?
Yeah, I did literally think when I read that line, I was like, why didn't he mention who died?
Yeah, I was like, he's dead.
He could just say, he could just mean anyone. He could mean the undying emperor, and we lost. He's dead.
Yeah, he could have said the nameless one was dead because it was like, I don't know, it was just a weird way to phrase all that one after the other.
But
but at least he didn't die. It would make sense.
Yeah, I guess we can, before we go to our closing thoughts, we can backtrack a second because I do want to talk about Caliba and what's the name of that damn sword?
Yeah, we skipped over all that. Ascalon.
Ascalon.
And then she had sex with her son. That was wild.
I thought, okay, one thing I did think was cool, not the sex with the son, but
big fan of that.
even though it wasn't really her son, but
yeah, that's true.
It was really cool that it explains why all the queens look exactly like each other. It's because the sarin in her blood kind of like messed with the birthing process, and when she takes her true form, she looks exactly like Sabrin. I found that like a really creepy visual. It's just like yourself looking back at you.
Yeah.
But like this evil, twisted version.
I mean that was a big part too. I really liked her. She was really cool. Her turning into the dragon was wild too. I did not expect her to be one of the Western dragons.
That was one part that really surprised me.
Also, why? That's a lot of power. I feel like it's way better.
Yeah, why does she need to serve the nameless one if she can just turn into a?
Whatever. I think she just got bored. She said it for a bit. She was like, Sabrin was like, "Why wouldn't you want to help me?" She's like, "Eventually, you get bored of what you created. It can never be perfect."
Yeah, that's I've talked about this with someone before. We were talking about if you had immortality, like if everyone had immortality, eventually your family would be meaningless to you.
Yeah.
Because imagine if you're talking to your 300th descendant, like 300 greats down, like you're your great grandpa, but like 300 of them. It's like, I don't know you or care about you. Why would I interact with you at all?
You're so detached now.
And it's been 1,000 years for her, so it's quite a few generations.
Yeah.
But yeah, another part I disliked is when Ede betrays her and goes back to the Priory, which I know makes sense. She's Priory to the core. She's grown up with it. She dedicated her life to it. But I feel like Caliba just revealed a world-changing truth to her that Cleoline didn't slay the Nameless One, or at least it didn't happen how the Priory thinks it did. And I think that would have shaken Ede's beliefs, and maybe she would have gone back to Caliba with the fruit just so she could like hear the rest of the story. And I think her having like a little training arc with Caliba would have been more interesting than, in my opinion, the worst part of the book, which is Ede jumping around the continents, going from wherever Caliba is, I forget the name, to back to the Priory, then going back to Sabrin and getting shot with a dart for no reason, just to contrive that plot where Loth can go across the sea instead of her. It just,
it definitely...
it got really messy for me right there.
I do understand, but it wouldn't have made sense to have any kind of training. There was no time, which once again kind of goes into pacing, but not really, because you can't really put that in a one book anyway, any build of sorts. But I thought that too. I was like, dude, she could have just trained with her and got that power. But then looking towards the end, it made sense. She never would have done anything. She didn't care.
Yeah.
She only wanted one thing.
But at that point, we didn't know
Of
Caliban
course.
was evil. We thought she's just like a neutral character.
Yeah, I thought she was like wronged. You know, I thought
Mhm.
she was just wronged by the Priory, and she really was just weird. She was just weird, and they didn't understand her.
Well, we know now how she got the immortality. If you're the first one to eat the fruit, you become immortal.
Which was a weird tie-in too, with the Como Rita, whatever.
Yeah. Do you know what was the other girl's name? The other ancient one that helped defeat the nameless one?
It was,
She had a different name.
yeah,
What?
something with a K, and then
Comarito.
and then
But that was the island, not the woman.
yeah, whatever the woman was.
Anyway, how did she die?
Tane's ancestor.
How did Tani's ancestor die? I did not understand that.
I
I know she like moved to have a simpler life
I
and
think
to stay
she
away.
killed herself.
Okay.
Because remember they said
Yeah, it doesn't
she
make you.
can't be.
It's not immortal. It's just
You can still be killed.
you're not invincible. You're immortal.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
I think she killed herself. I'm not sure.
I think you're right about that. I
She got
just couldn't
bored.
remember it while I was reading. I was like, why isn't she still around?
Which was a weird. No, I enjoyed the tie-in to make Tane more
Yeah.
relevant.
I
It was
think
a true calling of
I think it
whatever.
was necessary because up until that point, you're like, why are we seeing Tani? What's the point of this?
I guess.
And then
I
eventually,
guess.
you're like, oh, the jewel is inside her.
Well, you could argue that Eid wasn't really relevant until she was just a normal red damsel. But even before that,
Yeah, but she's kind of like, Eid is the connecting glue between everyone.
because
So,
she was already been there for 8 years, which is kind of
Yeah.
where it all
and really,
started.
anyone from the Priory
Could have done the same.
could have wielded the jewel. Well, it's because
Yeah.
she.
Anyone
got
who
it.
eats of the fruit can do it.
But I think it says it binds to the person who touches it until they die.
I don't know. I don't know if
Because-
it said that.
At some point, it says something along those lines because it's the reason why the Priory didn't steal the jewel from Eid after they poisoned her, because they knew it just wouldn't work.
Hmm.
When her friend, whatever her name was, came and gave her the poison.
I like how Tane could just control it, and Eid. They were supposed to train with it together, but
Yeah.
they didn't. They literally said we could work on it.
No.
And
Tane
never-
controlled it. Like, trained.
Uh,
Because remember, it talks about her on Feather Island training the tides.
no,
getting them to
but
come
when she met with Eid, she was like, we could work on it together to make
Oh,
sure we
yeah,
both.
yeah.
And they never like did anything.
Oh, you mean the other jewel? Yeah.
Yeah, with
Yeah,
the other one, because she wanted
got
to teach Eid.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I would say maybe keep everything the same, and not that this will fix everything, but extend the book 50 pages and give
50
Ian
pages.
and Tane some room to get to know each other, because I understand Tane is like completely different. They don't even speak the same language, and Tane is like, I think like 8 or 9 years younger than Ian, so they have that. But I really wish they would have interacted more, because they're essentially our two main characters, and they're together at the very end, but you don't really get too many interactions. They magically have this perfect chemistry to fight together, and that's all you get, really.
But yeah, I mean, if you don't have any more points, I wanted to conclude with that one note where it's like, you said it was like a movie,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that makes so much sense why it didn't work completely. I still gave it an 8.2, mind you. I still really enjoyed it.
We're complaining a lot, but
We're just being
there was
nitpicky.
a lot of things we enjoyed. Yeah, there's no like major complaints that are book ruining.
But
yeah.
it's like a movie, whereas if I were to be watching this, it'd be way better than it is as a book, because it somehow all works out in the end. Everyone comes together in this mishmash, whereas in a book, it doesn't work as well because I wasn't as fleshed out. But in a movie, it would have worked way better, I feel like, because it had like a movie dynamic.
Yeah,
You understand?
in a movie, you're a lot more forgiving for contrivances and just things piling up at the end, because like,
Yeah.
okay, this needs to happen.
Makes sense.
In a 2-hour movie, we don't have time to introduce 18 kingdoms. In a book, you don't get that excuse.
Yeah.
Maybe, as a reader, you're like, you should have done that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I feel like it was vague for no reason, but I understand she was trying to keep it to that one book. And
That's
I
right.
wouldn't have she could do a trilogy of sorts, but she had to really break it up. She couldn't do a trilogy based off this.
No.
That would be weird. I don't know about adding more
There's no
to it.
natural stopping points in this.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there are, but nothing that I think would deserve to end a book on. Like, You could say Ede getting poisoned could be a good end to a sequel book, but that's really a cliffhanger. It's like we didn't
Yeah.
resolve anything. We're just leaving it on a cliffhanger. But what
Yeah.
do you well, you said the prequel is going to be about the grief of ages, that like period where the nameless one was ruling over the land.
Yeah.
What do you think the sequel's going to be about? If you had to guess just based on where it ended.
I honestly have no clue whatsoever. Besides, it'd have to be a time skip to when you know, Ede has served her 10, or Sabrin has served her 10 years ruling like she wanted,
Mm-hmm.
and then come about a new age. But then they'd have to throw in something else to happen.
I
I don't know
think
if it could be just dragons anymore.
I think my prediction is going to be it's going to be shifting back and forth through time, and it's going to be about Tane hunting down Freydale and the right wing or whatever, and because he says he's still alive and out there, and Ian and Sabrin's relationship, and then it's gonna skip to a future where maybe she never killed Fredo and he's still there, and it's gonna be about people in the future looking at our past characters and
As
like how
legends.
history has twisted their story and trying to unravel the truth, like we did with Cleoline and what was the guy's
Galen.
name? Galen. Yeah, about them. So I think that's where they're gonna go. I really wish there wouldn't be a sequel. I think this works way better as a standalone.
And the prequel. I like the prequel. That's a fine idea. It makes sense because it always makes sense when there's a past tragedy that
Hmm.
happened. So I think that one's gonna be
I
good.
don't mind. Um, I'm not really a fan. Like I wasn't itching to re-explore this world. And I don't know if I'm gonna read the prequel or the
Yeah.
sequel, but um, yeah, I do think a prequel is more viable the way this book works than a sequel is. But it's got 100,000 reviews on Goodreads, over 100,000. So obviously you're gonna make a sequel. Why not get some of that
The
green
moolah.
paperback?
Yeah, also to wrap it up, I wanted to look at some, as Tyler just said, some good read.
The Goodread
Yeah,
reviews.
some
Yeah.
reviews. I have 3 reviews here. One great one. This person loved it. One decent one, and one guy absolutely hated it.
Okay. Don't don't say their names. You
They
can
don't
for
have
the
real names.
oh okay. You can for the good one, but I don't want to dog
So
on
A
anyone.
here.
Okay.
Yeah. No, so this first review, they gave it a 5 stars. But yeah, I'll just read it and then we could just kind of see if we agree. So this person, she loved it. She said, I felt like a thread of my heart had snagged in the Priory of the Orange Tree, and it is still trying to tug me back in. I barely felt time passing, and I felt dreamy and obscure and so keenly aware of the world around me. Um, the same experience of waking up just as the last vestige of some delightful nocturnal adventure or disappearing.
So
This is a great book. Without any spoiler, well,
so A is going for her masters in
no,
poetry.
this person's name is like Cha or something. Um, that was basically I was just
Okay. It
gonna
was
like
odd a little bit to put a poem at the beginning of your review, but I mean, she obviously felt very attached to the book and the characters. Where I don't think any of us had really a strong not attraction, but attachment to anyone in the book. Like we enjoyed Loth, but I wouldn't say he's like one of my top 10 characters I've
yeah,
ever read. But maybe if you're um in the LGBT community and you're finally seeing some sort of
yeah,
representation in in a book that's not just smut, it's actually like a good fantasy book. Maybe that's the first time she ever read something like that where she could connect to the characters. I could see how that could happen, where we might connect to say like Aragorn in Lord of the Rings, and she didn't have representation like that. And now she does. I could see where you could really enjoy it from there, but she didn't really state anything that she loved particularly about it, so it's kind of hard to see if I agree with her on those points.
yeah. So she gave it 10 out of 10, basically 5 stars. She didn't really say anything specific. This next one we have a bit more to.
So this is like a 3 star.
Yeah, this is a 3 star. Um, so I'm not gonna lie, I feel fucking proud of myself for managing to make my way through this giant. To say that I'm sad this turned out to be a 3 star is an understatement. So what she liked, easy writing, relationships and friendships, diversity. We agree. What she disliked, everything else.
Oh.
Which this is what we're gonna understand a lot. And so most of this book was slow pace, and then towards the end, everything suddenly started being rushed and thrown together. She didn't connect with the characters. She felt detached towards the end, and she said she appreciated the growth of Ruse. I don't agree. And she liked Tane and Loth, but she did not like Sabrin at all. Found her obnoxious. So I think we agree with a lot
mostly
of those.
with their points, especially the pacing issue. But I don't think I ever felt detached to the characters. I felt like I was with them. I just didn't like how they were going about it. But I felt like the story worked. It just went too fast. But yeah, the pacing issues. She disliked Sabrin a little bit more than me. You didn't mind her. I didn't appreciate Roose at all. I was waiting for him to get shanked. And I felt like he was the most pretentious character in the whole thing when he's getting carried around by those servants.
Yeah, I
And
think
so I was like,
Roose is
sucks.
annoying because he felt like he didn't deserve anything bad happening to him. Like, oh, I never should have been exiled, this and that. They're just cringe. But she also said, yeah, I found her obnoxious, arrogant, dislikable for Sabrin. Which I can understand. Like you said, if you really get emotional with this, you could say she's annoying. But I don't know how you couldn't see it just as a normal royalty head.
Yeah, if you have someone that's she literally doesn't even wash herself. They do everything for her. Obviously, you're going to get some sort of superiority complex from that. But I think her growth toward the end saved her character for me.
Also, she went through a lot. We ignored that a bit. She went through a shit ton.
Yeah, she had a miscarriage, getting stabbed by a dragon spike through the child.
Her freaking husband for the first time
died in front of her in her arms.
And she almost lost Eid.
Her mom died when she was young. She lost Loth, which was like her best friend.
Yeah.
Then Eid gets she leaves on her own accord because she's gonna be sent to the dungeons.
Then basically almost died again. So
yeah, and then Sabrin almost dies. Like she gets sick like 3 times in this book. I think she's going through more conflict than most people give her credit for.
Okay, and then the final review, 1 star. So,
is this okay? Well, you'll say it. I was just wondering if it's like a real review or if he's like a racist.
Well, I'll read it.
Okay.
It's been given the Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings label, and although I should know better and stay away from anything tagged, deserves to be as big as this and that. Whatever. He's a sucker for it. Let's see what he says. For a while, this is a decent story dealing with the issue of faith and lengths rulers will go to keep their people afraid. Politics, backstabbing. But his first issue is the amount of characters and the history. More characters in one book than half the Wheel of Time series. Too tightly packed with barely any time given to a character. Fair. And it's really prominent with antagonists, he said. And then his second issue is the lack of threat from the dragons. Although the nameless one minions are stirring from their slumber, they barely show up. And there's a great deal of preparation, but you never really feel the threat because it's so quick. Yeah.
Yeah, I think both his points are valid.
Too low of a rating for what he just said, but I digress.
1 star is a little aggressive. Okay, I'm gonna go through it. I'm gonna need you to read the second part again, but I do agree with him that this won't be remembered with the Lord of the Rings or the Wheel of Times or the Game of Thrones. It's not that great, but I don't think you should compare it to those. Like, I don't think you should put this on the same pedestal and compare them 1-to-1 because those are like some of the greatest books ever written, and this is fairly new, where it hasn't had time to sit, so you can't say that it's one of the greats yet.
Well, he was saying, so people are saying that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think people would love to exaggerate stuff.
Yeah, there's no way. You can't take someone. This book came out in 2018 or something?
Yeah.
And you can't. People will just say, just because it's super popular, this is the next thing. Obviously, he said he's just a sucker for that kind of thing, but I don't think that it's I don't think it's going to be one of the greats in 50 years, but I do think it'll remain fairly popular, and especially with how diverse and multicultural the book is, I think it'll have some staying power with
Yeah.
that. But I like I said, I don't think it's one of the best books ever written.
Yeah, I don't understand. I think it's more of a popularity thing, and I don't even think. I think it's just, the voice of few,
Hmm.
or the loudest, whatever. The most popular people are saying it's great, so it goes to the front of your feed or wherever you're taking in this information. But I think, like we kind of talked about in the beginning, I don't think everyone loves it. I think a lot of people who have read a lot of fantasy I've seen
Hmm.
said it's fine,
Yeah,
and I agree with that. It's good. I
I
think it's
think
mostly
yeah. If
popularity.
you're say like 15 to 18 and you're
You
new,
might love the.
you're like, oh, this is a really good book. But as you read more in-depth books and better constructed books, to be frank, I think you'll realize this. I wouldn't say it's mediocre. It's better than a mediocre, but it's not a 10 out of 10 amazing book. It is. It sits
Well,
around that 7 to 8 mark.
to be fair, it's weird that we think of it as that way because we haven't actually read any epic fantasy either.
No,
So
but
the fact that we still don't hold it to high regard is interesting because we have like no background knowledge
the
of
books
it.
we do read aren't like I said earlier, the Colleen Hoover, the ultra popular, meant for the lowest common denominator to where everyone can read them. I think we just naturally read more niche, slightly harder to read books. And so when we go to like this level of comprehension, not to say that it's like super easy or like a dumbed down book, but it is more broadly appealing, and it's just like not as much substance as we would want from something being boasted and praised this highly.
I think it's quite simply just a very average story with nice diversity added on to
Yeah.
it.
What
And
did
then,
he?
I mean, it's the dragon book with.
What did he say before the pacing issue? Because I wanted to bring that up.
It's too tightly packed. It is exactly as we said.
Yeah.
There was no fleshing out of a character that was introduced randomly. Just kind of have to deal with it.
Yeah, I didn't know that, um, because I don't have a lot of experience with fantasy. I didn't know that this was an abnormally large amount of characters for one book. When I was reading, I was like, maybe I'm just not used to all these characters. But it seems like it is a pretty common complaint that there are simply too many characters or too many names. You don't even have to really call them characters
Yeah.
in the book. I do agree with him completely that the dragon threat. I understand these are people that have lived in this world with dragons the whole time, but you could make the dragons seem more menacing. It seems like every time they show up, 3 or 4 dragons get killed before the characters actually get hurt or have to start worrying about them. Like when Ede is getting chased down by the prioresses, and they go to the ruined city, and the dragons come upon them, and they kill one of the prioress people immediately, and it's the Priory people immediately. I feel like that's the only time the dragons felt like a major threat, besides like when the ultra powerful dragon attacks the queendom. It's like, why would you only show that once? Why not show the dragons being a constant menace throughout the land?
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah. I think it was pretty. They were pretty easily dealt with, besides the big ones.
Yeah, that was a good review. All 3 of those were pretty good. Well,
But yeah,
first one was a little odd, but
to give it a 1 rating for stuff like that didn't really make sense to me. But
yeah, but I do think
whatever.
at least he put valid points. I was expecting a 1-star rating, to be like something homophobic.
Yeah.
And then
Bad representation.
maybe you can't do that on Goodreads.
But yeah, I think that's about all. I think we talked about it
Yeah,
pretty
I
thoroughly.
think. Oh yeah.
Good thing we didn't talk about everything. We'd be here 3 hours.
Yeah,
But we
that's
still
true.
talked about a good one.
The fiction was 200 pages, and we talked about it for 2 hours. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we're still longer than I thought we would talk about it, to be honest. But yeah, that is Priory the Orange Tree. If you haven't checked it out, and for some reason if you listened this far, worth a check out. It is currently $3 on Kindle, but normal price is only like 11. So if you have a Kindle, worth it. The paperback's only like 15 for a giant book with some really cool art on it. It's a worthy pickup, absolutely.
Got everything. I made some notes.
Okay.
Yeah. So next month we're reading Swan Song.
Don't ask me a name. It's O'Donnell, I think, or something like that.
No, I think it's Robert. Robert R. McCammon.
McCammon.
Pretty cheap, and it's free on Kindle Unlimited too. So
Yeah, if
y'all
you
can
got
pick
Kindle
that up.
Unlimited, pick it up. I think I saw on Amazon. It's like $11 or something. It's a
Yeah.
pretty. It was written in 1987, I think. Don't quote me on the year, but yeah, it's pretty old book. So I'm sure you can find a used copy really cheap if you dig around a bit. Another lengthy one, even longer than this one. You want to give a quick, not even a synopsis, but just like an overall about what it's about.
It is 1,100 pages, and it is
It's at that, but I
1987.
downloaded it on Kindle. On Kindle, it's 947 pages. So,
Yeah, Swan Song, basically a quick synopsis. Synopsis.
like in the brain.
An ancient evil roams the desolate landscape of an America ravaged by nuclear war. He is the man with a scarlet eye, a malevolent force that feeds on the dark desires of the countless followers he has gathered into his service. His only desire is to find a special child named Swan and destroy her. But yeah, from what I understand, it's just about like a nuclear accident happening, and then humans are literally evolving in some type of way. That's all I know. I never read into these because I don't want to.
Yeah.
But it seems really interesting.
Seems some sort of premature forced evolution on the humans to get them to survive in this desolate landscape.
Yeah.
Do you know what
That'd be awesome.
Swan Song is?
What do you mean?
Like when someone says it was her swan song?
No.
No, it's like their last song. Swans sing when they die or something. They make a noise. I don't know if they sing, but their swan song is like their final act or final words or something you go out in a grandiose way. I don't know if that comes from this book or not.
Maybe.
But
it could be the cry of the human race. Oh. I'm gonna tell him that.
you gotta call
Might make
call
a change.
McDonald.
You know?
Whatever his name was.
Robert.
No,
McCammon.
I don't even know where I was. McCannon. That's what I was thinking of.
But yeah, we'll be reading that. Pick it up. It's free, and like you said, you could probably find it cheap. And it's a big one too. I mean, it gets compared a lot to The Stand, but this one's actually supposed to be better. So.
Did The Stand come out first, or was this first?
This one came out first.
Oh, okay.
The Stand actually supposedly took a lot of
inspiration
themes from this.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. But yeah, I mean that's the end. Check out the TikTok. Check out
Please.
the YouTube. Please, we need more views.
Anything? I was trying to think if we had any special announcements. We do have a special video coming up, but I don't want to ruin anything, so I'm not gonna tell you anything about it.
Stay tuned for next month.
Yeah, definitely check out.
Big month. Very big month.
Very big month for us. Definitely check out the TikToks. You do get clips from this, but we also post some original stuff on there. It's not like we're just cutting out stuff from the podcast.
If you want to see our ugly faces some more.
Yeah, I'm gonna post a second one tonight. So
it's
a 3 TikTok day over there for us. You got to get over there. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you guys for watching. All the links are, of course, down in the description for all the books we're gonna read, the Discord, TikToks, YouTube, Anchor, which is our podcast host. Of course, we have all of our podcast links listed on there. Be sure to check all those out on your preferred listening platform. Anything else you want to say?
We did forget to say we hope y'all had a good Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah, great Thanksgiving.
If you're in the States, you gotta
you think Thanksgiving has transcended or no? No, you don't think so?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean I think that's all we have. Stay tuned for next month, like we said. Big month. But otherwise, pause and